Hello and good evening. Welcome to Ending Well with Minnelle. My name is Minnelle Williams. I'm a pre-planning funeral director and end-of-life educator. I say that because I really enjoy having these deep conversations about death, end-of-life, legacy planning, and doing it in a light way so that I believe that the more knowledge we have, the easier it will be to have these conversations and move forward with our legacy planning. So today I am very happy to introduce MK Bosu. He will be joining us. He's a trust professional who will educate us on I would say, the clickbait or the very exciting topic of trust. Everybody on Instagram, everybody online is talking about the importance of creating a family trust. So tonight we're going to learn about them, how to do them, and what you need to have in order to set one up. All right. Welcome to the episode. Very happy to have you. Good evening, MK.
Thank you very much, Minnelle. Appreciate it. Great to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming. Can you please introduce yourself to everyone just so we get a sense of who you are first, and then we'll get into it.
Okay, thank you. For me, I've been a corporate trustee currently with one of the major banks in Canada for approximately 10 years. I've been with the bank for 12, and 10 of those 12 years has been in the estate and trust department. Currently, I'm a trust officer and manage a book of trust and estate accounts. So that means, for example, if somebody passes away, sometimes individuals name us or name a corporate trustee, like such as the bank, as their executor or as their trustee. And what I do is basically I manage or I settle their will. If it's a trust, I create a trust, and basically I manage the trust account. So basically, I act as a fiduciary for our wealthy clients at the bank. On a personal note, I like to stay physically active. I've climbed the CN Tower about 11 times.
What?
I've done about 2 half marathons, one the Toronto half marathon, Scotiabank half marathon, and also I've done the Free Press Detroit Windsor International half marathon. So those are some of the facts about me. Otherwise, I'm married. I recently married with my beautiful wife. So looking forward to today's chat.
Yes, I love that. I love learning. I did not know that about you. 11 times. I've never been up.
Yes.
I've never taken the stairs up the CN Tower. I don't think I ever want to. So
It's fun. There's one on November. It's for charity, United Way. There's usually 2 in Toronto every year. There's one in May for WWF, which I did this year, and then I'm doing the one in November. I think it's October or November. It's for United Way. You should, if time is available, you should join.
I don't think so.
It's a major challenge. It's
How
a
long
major
did it
challenge.
take you?
Sorry.
How long did it take you?
Oh, so I did it. My best time is 19 minutes, but again, I'm getting older, so I did it in May. I did it in about 24 minutes. So
Okay.
I'm hoping to improve my timeline in November.
Oh yeah, that's very
And
important.
again, there was a 2 period break because of COVID, so they just brought it back this year.
Okay. Okay. True.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that lovely information, right? Let's get started here. So my icebreaker question for you, we have a sense of who you are, but let's get this one. If you were to die today, what is a life lesson you would want to share with the world? What's one thing you'd want us to know?
Wow, that's a deep one. That's a really good question. I think the one thing I would share is if we can perhaps be more present
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledge our surroundings, our the people around us, be more present because nowadays we're all focused on technology, social media, on our phones. So sometimes we lose track of the presence. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing I would share with everyone. If we can become more present, to be in the moment, perhaps meditate more, be still.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I would share with the world. Be more present, and I think that would bring more peace and harmony within oneself, and then you can spread it to your neighbor and to the world.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm trying myself to answer the question, how are you really? As opposed to just saying, oh, I'm fine, I'm wonderful. No, no, no. Pause.
Yeah.
Reflect on how I'm actually feeling in that moment, being present, right? And then
Yeah.
answering that way. So I love that. That resonates very well. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So Let's start with the basics for those who don't know anything. What is a trust?
So a trust account is a simple. It's like any other account. It's just that is to have control over assets that you've given to perhaps a trustee for the benefit of an individual. For example, to create a trust, there are five main necessities, as they call it. The first one is you have to be capable, right? You have to be a capable person. Like capable mean that your mind has to be that you don't like you're not incapable. Like you're a capable person, capable of mind. Your mind is there. You're alert. Like
Mhm.
you want to create a trust. The second thing is you need to have intent. So that means that you have to express some form of intent, meaning that I want to create a trust. So how do you express intent? Usually, you can express intent by creating a trust deed or expressing your intent through your will.
Mhm.
So if you're doing your will and you want to create a trust in your will, you can express intent in your will. If you want to create a trust separate from your will, and I will go a little bit more into this, there are two types of trust accounts. If you want to create it outside your will, then you need a separate trust deed. So in the trust deed, you would express your intent. So the third thing that you need is that you need beneficiaries. Like
Mhm.
who is the trust going to benefit? Now it could benefit you, could benefit your loved ones, your friends, your kids, family, or it could be charity, right? It could be anything. It could even be your pet. Like in Canada, I'll give you an example. You cannot name your pet as a beneficiary in your will,
Yeah.
but you can create a trust and name your pet as the beneficiary of your trust,
I love
right?
that. Yes.
So a trust can be anybody can be a beneficiary of a trust. Now, the fourth thing that you need is you would need a trustee. So you would need to appoint somebody to be your trustee to manage the trust account. And last thing you need is the trust property. So this is where perhaps trust is seen as an account or as a product that is exclusive to the wealthy because you need trust property. So what is a trust property? So you need assets. It could be cash. It could be luxury items such as a boat, a vehicle, or cash, right? But the thing is, you need a trust property that you give to your trustee for the benefit of your beneficiaries.
Mhm.
So to open and again, this is a formal trust, right? A
Mhm.
formal trust, you need a trust property. So you cannot start from zero. You have to have a property for the benefit of your beneficiaries that you'll be given to your trustee to manage. So
Mhm.
these are simply some of the basics in terms of setting up a trust. So again, you need to be capable, you need to express intent, you need to have beneficiaries, you need to appoint a trustee, and you need to basically have the trust property that you need that you're putting into a trust for the benefit of your beneficiaries. So those are the basically the ABCs of setting up a trust. But there are two main, I should say three types of trust, but we usually focus on the two. The first one is the inter vivos trust. This is a trust that you create while you are still alive.
Okay.
So it's called inter vivos trust. So that means that the trust becomes active while you're still alive. This
Mhm.
could be irrevocable or revocable, meaning you can make changes. If it's irrevocable, it means you cannot make any changes.
Mhm.
There is also the second type of trust is the testamentary trust. So this is the one that you create inside your will,
Mhm.
which means it becomes active after you've passed away. And testamentary trusts are always irrevocable because you've passed away, you cannot make any changes, right? Now, the third one is usually the charitable trust. So this is when you set up a charity in your trust, but that's not well. It's for individuals, but again, the beneficiary is for a charity. So there's not much that we focus. We don't focus on that one so much. But yes, the two main ones are the intervivals trust and the testamentary trust. So these are the ABCs of trust accounts.
Okay. Thank you. So I
Yeah.
want to ask a question based on what you said there, because I know many times I've had people who said they've tried to set up a trust And when speaking to their advisors, they say, no, not yet. You're not in a position where you need to do a trust. What would we need? So a property or something that can be managed and then passed on to your family. So what kind of is that threshold where you can say, okay, now I want to set up a family trust? Or
Okay. So again, a trust is the one thing to understand is a trust is created for a purpose, right? So before you even start about thinking about opening a trust, you need to identify what is the purpose. Why are you setting up a trust, right? Now, the thing is, there are informal and formal trust. Informal trust is you can go to your local bank, retail bank, and open an informal trust. Maybe you're a mother and you would like to open a trust account for your newborn child and start saving a little bit of money in there. So those trusts you can start from zero. You open a trust is informal, is for your baby, so that when the kid reaches 18, they can have the account, right? Now you can start from zero in those type of accounts and then contribute to it on a maybe weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. Those are informal trusts. You can open it at the branch. Anybody can do that. Again, those are informal trusts. Now, the formal trust account require legal documents that will be legally binding, right? And again, you would have to go and sit down with a lawyer, preferably an estate lawyer who understands estate matters, so that they can explain to you the necessary items you may not be considering. But once you identify the reason for your trust, again, you sit down with a lawyer, and then you will draft the trust, the deed, or if it's a testamentary trust, you will draft your will. Now, you mentioned like how much to start a formal trust. I can give you an example regarding the corporate trustees.
yeah.
Our threshold starts at 750,000 in probatable assets. So these are assets that are in the individual's name alone. So we're looking at 750,000. So this includes a paid off property or equity in a property that is over 750. So you're looking at 750,000 if you want to appoint a corporate trustee. If you want to appoint your neighbor or perhaps your brother as your trustee, you can start at any amount, right? You can give him maybe 10,000, and he can manage it. But again, it depends on the on the purpose you want the trust for. But for corporate trustees, our threshold is usually from 750,000 and more. But technically, you can open a trust for any specific amount. But to serve the purpose, most likely you will need some form of large property or large amount to begin.
Okay. So you're saying I want a trust to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So based on again on the TikToks of the world, the purpose is to transfer wealth, right,
Yeah.
from one generation to the next and avoid tax as much as possible because now everything is staying within the trust. The trust manages everything. That's correct.
Yes. Now, okay, the ones the information you see on TikTok,
Yeah.
again, it depends on each jurisdiction is different, right? So most of it is probably coming from the U.S. Now, the U.S. they have a variety of trust accounts and perhaps trust setups. A lot of them are very different from Canada, right? So we need to differentiate
Yeah.
which jurisdictions we are in.
Let's talk
Right.
about Canada. Yes.
Yeah, so in Canada, before 2016, trusts were very lucrative. You could save a lot of taxes with trust accounts. But since they changed the law in 2016, so trust accounts are taxed at the same marginal rate as individuals.
Oh.
They are usually taxed at the highest marginal rate. So you're not saving any money. Previously, before 2016, you would save a lot of money having a trust account. But nowadays, those savings are gone since 2016 when they changed the law.
So what is the benefit of a trust today?
So again, there are multiple benefits, right? Now the thing is, again, you have to understand the purpose, right?
Yes.
Like I'll give you an example. Like let's say you have disabled children that receive Ontario or government support, ODSP. Ontario in Ontario is the ODSP, government support, right? Now the thing is, according to ODSP, if you receive an ODSP, you cannot receive more than 10,000 outside of ODSP. If you do, then the government will stop providing you with the benefits. So there is a scheme, or there is a product called the Hansen Trust. So the Hansen Trust is designed to provide beneficiaries who are receiving ODSP with access to basically funds from a trust account. So the disabled individual can continue receiving the government support, and also receive up to 10,000 from the trust account. So instead of the beneficiary perhaps going to work, as a disabled individual, sometimes they cannot even work, right? The trust will be there to provide additional support of 10,000 every year until they reach 65, and after 65, they can basically access the full amount of the trust.
Okay.
Now, another reason why you would want to open a trust is the spousal trust. I'll give you an example. Recently, Kobe Bryant passed away. We can assume that most of the family wealth came from Kobe Bryant because he was a superstar NBA player, and he had other ventures as well. So we can assume that most of the wealth from his family generated was from Kobe Bryant. Now, he probably didn't know when he was going to die, but he could have opened a spousal trust, meaning that, again, Kobe died very young, 40 years old, and I'm pretty sure the wife is, I think, in her late 30s. So we can assume that, at some point, maybe because of pressures from the media, she may not remarry. But under normal circumstances, given that she's very young, in her late 30s, she could get remarried, right? Now the thing is, Kobe could create a spousal trust, meaning that the wealth can benefit his wife until, again, he can put whatever stipulations he wants until he remarries, until she remarries, or perhaps until the kids get old enough and then they can inherit his wealth. So the thing is, what usually happens is that, let's say she remarries, right? And then she falls in love with this gentleman, and she creates a new will, right? Basically, and then she has new kids with this new partner. What could happen is that Kobe's kids, 4 kids, could lose out on the distribution of his estate. So people usually create a spousal trust to prevent this from happening, right?
Yeah.
But you would have to put the necessary stipulations to benefit your wife while she's alive, and then perhaps after your wife passes away, the rest of your wealth goes to the children that you had together. So that's another reason why you would want to have a trust. Another one could be perhaps the spendthrift trust, is where perhaps you have a child that spends money feverishly without thinking about it, and perhaps instead of giving out your inheritance, outright to this particular child or beneficiary, you set up a trust, and you dictate that perhaps every month the trustee should release $1,000 to the beneficiary until they pass away, right? Or what people tend to do is that they have a really young child. Maybe when they passed away, the child was 18. They would say, okay, when the child reaches 25, give him 50% of the trust. When the child reaches 45, give him the rest of the trust. So you can have a stage distribution so that the child matures, and that they will inherit at the proper time to manage the funds properly.
Wow. Okay, that's perfect. That's a lot. So I'm assuming this is the way that these are some examples of how having a trust will protect your assets.
Yeah. So the main purpose of a trust is that, again, you have some form of control after you've passed away. These are mainly the reasons why you want to set up a testamentary trust, so that you can still have control over your money or your property after you've passed away. Right now, if it's inter vivos trust, I can give you examples of why people want to set up inter vivos trust as well. Inter vivos is when you're still alive. Now, the thing is, if you create a testamentary trust in your will, once you pass away, the will has to go through the probate process. Once you complete the probate process, your will becomes public document. So anybody can go to the courts and ask for your will, and then read it, right? So it becomes public. Some people don't want that. So they create an inter vivos trust. They put all of their funds into the trust while you're still alive. So basically, this is the case with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, there were some allegations against him, and while he was in prison, he decided to commit suicide. He hung himself. Now, before he did that, he brought his lawyer to the prison and basically drafted an I guess an inter vivos trust or a testamentary trust. Yeah, I guess in this case it was a testamentary trust. And basically, oh no, it was an inter vivos trust because he put everything into a trust, and then because then if it was a testamentary trust, we would know how much he had. So yeah, sorry, it's a inter vivos trust. He put everything into an inter vivos trust. So basically, even if you probate his will, you wouldn't know how much assets he has because everything is in the trust. So once it's in the trust, it becomes private, and nobody can have access to it. No, only the trustee has access to it. The trustee manages it, but it's not public. So that's a number. That's one of the reasons why people tend to create an inter vivos trust for privacy reasons.
Yes.
Yes. Now, another reason could be if you want to remove a child from your estate. You don't want one of your child. Perhaps the child has been distant, hasn't communicated with you. There is some form of conflict between you and the child. Then you can create an inter vivos trust to basically cancel him out of your estate, right? So in the inter vivos trust, you can basically put all your assets into the inter vivos trust, and then put stipulations that upon your death, the distribution goes to beneficiary 1, 2, and 3, and remove Joe from the distribution. So Joe cannot claim anything on your estate because in Canada, in some provinces, let's say any child can claim dependency. So if, for example, a parent doesn't leave anything to their children, and let's say a parent had 3 children and they leave one out, the child that was left out can contest the will and say that I was dependent on my parents, so therefore I deserve to be part of the of his estate distribution. If you do an inter vivos trust, you can take out the child, and he cannot contest the trust. So yeah, these are some of the reasons why you would want to create a. And again, there are many reasons. Again, with trust, you can create a trust for practically anything.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to find the purpose that you want to do it, and then again, the important thing: don't go to Grand and Toy and purchase a $15 will kit.
Yes.
Go see a lawyer. They will sit down with you, and they will go through all of the advantages and disadvantages of your choices.
I'm imagining, speaking about wills, I'm imagining a lot of people while going through the will process, it's daunting, right? Getting all of your information, getting it all set up. So what is the process to set up a trust? Like how much research and gathering of items do people have to do in order to set up a trust?
Again, I would always recommend this is to, the first step is to sit down with an estate lawyer, right? It's key to go to an estate lawyer and sit down with an estate lawyer. Otherwise, you can always come to the corporate trustees at the banks. You can also sit down with us. We would give you some examples, and also we will share with you what we charge our fees. But the best thing to do is to sit down with an estate lawyer and basically discuss with the estate lawyer your plans. Like, what do you plan on doing, and how a trust can help you achieve those goals, right? I mean, the thing is, not everybody needs a trust, but if you want to have some form of control over your assets once you've passed away, then yes, a trust is definitely the tool for you to use. But yes, start by having a conversation with the estate lawyer. That would be the first step to do. You can don't follow advice on TikTok or it's better to sit down with an estate lawyer or a trust officer to go through the process. But again, the 5 necessities that you need is, again, well, you have to be capable, you have to express intent, you need beneficiaries, you need a trust property, and you need to appoint a trustee. Once you have those in mind, And then you sit down with the lawyer. They will draft the trust deed or the testamentary trust, and then from there, once the event occurs, the trust account will be opened by your trustee.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What are some challenges then that we should be aware of when setting this up? Okay, so I've gone through, I've done my due diligence, I've decided, yes, I am capable, yes, I have something I want to put in the trust. What is something I need to be aware of now and for the family after passing?
Well, it's important to appoint the right trustee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is, if it's a corporate trustee, technically, sometimes there's less worries because corporate trustees will live forever. For example, for me, if right now I'm a corporate trustee, but let's say I go over to the next bank or I retire, somebody will replace me, right? But if you name your favorite cousin or your neighbor as your trustee, they could pass away,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or sometimes trust can go on forever. I mean, you think about the Nobel Peace Prize. That is a trust account that has been going for over 100 years, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can explain a little bit on that later. But yeah, so you want to think about your trustee, like who
Mhm.
should be your trustee, because the trust can outlive your trustee. So sometimes it's better to appoint a corporate trustee.
Yeah.
Also, if you're appointing an individual as your trustee, do you trust that person, or do you appoint multiple trustees so that they can, watch over the other person's hand or activities,
Mm-hmm.
right? To audit or to monitor, basically supervise each other, so that nobody basically plays with your property,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these are some of the things you should think about. Your trustee is really important, and then again, it depends on if it's an inter vivos trust. You would want to think about the tax implications,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you're still alive, and if it's a testamentary trust, you would want to perhaps, again, you would have to sit down with a lawyer, but they would go through all of the disadvantages and advantages of the trust. But with the testamentary trust, sometimes the issue becomes, when should the trust be dissolved, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's something you have to discuss with the lawyer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you want it to go on forever in perpetuity, or do you want it to come to an end at a particular point? So that's something you have to discuss with your lawyer. And again, because trust accounts can be wind up early
Mm-hmm.
if all beneficiaries are in agreement, right? So you have to think about something like that. Is that what you want, or do you want it to go on forever? So if you want it to go on forever, there are stipulations that you can put in your will so that it goes on forever.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it to come to an end at a particular point, it's better to specify it in your will so that when that particular event occurs, the trustee can end the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to think about. When should the trust end, right?
Yeah. So on that, thinking about the Nobel Peace Prize as you explained. Now,
Hmm.
if I have, let's say, a family cottage or
Hmm.
a property somewhere, and I want that to stay within the family, within the bloodline, right?
Yes.
I can put that in a trust and determine
Mhm.
that I do not want it to end until there's no one left in the bloodline, something like that. How does that work? Is that possible? How would it work?
Yeah, so anything is possible with a trust account, right? But the thing is that, like, is your idea, like, is it feasible? Like, okay, let's look at the Nobel Peace Prize example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the individual's name was Albert Nobel, and I think he lived in Norway or somewhere in Scandinavia,
Mm-hmm.
and he invented the dynamite DDT.
Mm-hmm.
He never married, he never had children, so he made a lot of money with the invention of the dynamite. So what happened was that, he felt bad about his invention. He's like, I invented something so brutal, destruction. So he said, well, how can I give back to humanity?
Mm-hmm.
So he created this trust, meaning that every year he would award a certain amount of money. I think right now is $1 million
Mm-hmm.
to the individual that demonstrates the most peace in the world. So that's the premise of the trust. So every year they go around and they look for somebody that created the most peace in the world, and they award them $1 million. So this was created back in I don't know, 1800s or late early 1900s. So that's, in simple terms, what the trust is about. So he made a lot of money, and he put all his money into this particular trust, right? Now the thing is, when you put money into a trust, it's invested.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this was like physical money, right?
Yeah.
So it's invested over time, and it's been gaining, interest, and it's been accruing, it's been gaining capital. There's gains on in the account. So this trust can probably go on forever. So
Mm-hmm.
every year they pick one. This is it's like a smaller version of this would be like a scholarship or a bursary, and I
Yeah.
have a few of those that I hand out every year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like basically like a gift, like a prize that is given to an individual every year, and they do it every year, right? So for something like that, it will go on in perpetuity. It will go on forever. And again, it's not a physical property. It is basically assets in a trust account that is building equity, that is building capital gains. So it can go on forever. Now, to come back to your example of a property,
Mm-hmm.
now the thing is, okay, now you said this property is in a trust. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it being rented, or are the family members just living in it? The thing is, because with the property, you need money to maintain it. So how is it being maintained?
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is, because the thing is, there's property taxes to be paid. Who is paying that? Is it the trust paying it? If the trust is paying it, which money is supporting it? Because if you just put that particular property inside a trust, how is the trustee going to pay property taxes? How is the trustee going to pay insurance? So you will need to have a large sum of money also into that trust, supporting the maintenance of the property. Now let's say yes, you added an additional 1 or 2 million into this particular trust. So now there's 2 million plus the property inside the trust. So now your trustee, yes, your trustee is investing the 2 million or 1 million, is generating capital gains, is generating some form of income. So your trustee is able to make payments to for insurance, for maintenance, for
Mm-hmm.
property taxes, right? So now your family members are living in the property. So yes, then that would work, right? They can live there in perpetuity forever
Mm-hmm.
until the last of your descendants living there. But the thing is, now you have to think about, what if, let's say, they don't want to live in that particular city anymore. They want to move to a different country. Like, will there be provisions to sell this property, or will it just stay there in the middle of nowhere and rot? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, or will there be provisions to rent it, right? And also nowadays, I mean, let's say you created this trust back in 1900s. Nowadays we have Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be a stipulation in there to do an Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe in 100 years there could be a new form of business with houses that you're not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to put specific stipulations in
Mm-hmm.
your will or in your trust deed. This is why I say it's really important to sit down with the lawyer
Mm-hmm.
to stipulate all of the stipulations that you want, all of the provisions that you want, so that these stipulations and provisions can come to pass. And also, again, if you want it to go on forever, you have to know of the consequences or the disadvantages and advantages of letting it go on for forever.
Yes. Okay. This has been a lot of knowledge about trust. I'm
Yes.
glad that we brought it, especially to the Canadian side, because a lot of what we see is American. So I'm happy we understand how they work in Canada. Before we go, is there anything that you want that we haven't covered that you want to say, Minnelle, hold on, this is really important that we know about trust?
I think
Mhm.
something just came to mind, but I just forgot. The thing is, okay, for me, right? Like, let's say, um, anybody, like I said, anybody can open a trust, right?
Mhm.
For me, the easiest trust, the type of trust account to open is called the insurance trust. So how does this work? Let's say you don't have any money, right?
Yeah.
So this is a testamentary trust, by the way. So
Mhm.
this happens after you've passed away.
Mhm.
So the insurance trust, this is how it works. So you purchase an insurance fund, an insurance policy.
Mhm.
Let's say you purchase 100,000 of life insurance, right? What you do is you name your estate as the beneficiary on your insurance policy.
Okay.
That's the first step, right? The second step is you go to a lawyer and you tell the lawyer you want to create an insurance trust in your will.
Okay.
So again, this will only take place upon your death.
Okay.
All right. So you follow. So the first thing is
Yeah.
buy an insurance policy with any insurance broker at any insurance company.
Mhm.
Right. Name your beneficiary of the insurance policy is your estate. And
Mhm.
again, this is not advice. This is just entertainment.
Yes. I like that. Clear.
Okay. Yeah. So again, buy an insurance policy with an insurance broker, insurance company. It doesn't matter. Name your beneficiary as your estate, so
Mhm.
that when you pass away, the insurance goes to your estate.
Mhm.
Go see a lawyer, draft a will. In
Mhm.
your will, create a testamentary trust.
Mhm.
In the testamentary trust that is in your will, you name your trustee, and basically you tell your trustee the stipulations of your will. So
Mhm.
let's say you have a child that is 5 years old. You say in your testamentary trust, I want this insurance proceeds to go to my child, but I want it to be paid maybe 50% when she's 30, and then the whole amount when she's 45.
Mhm.
Instead of just
Mhm.
buying an insurance policy and just giving it to your what do you call it, your child when she's maybe 7 years old.
Mhm.
Now the thing is, if you do it that way, you created a trust and you have control over the assets once you've passed away.
Mhm.
You know, the reason why I'm saying it is because I give you the example of the single mother. So usually single mothers um they have life insurance, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was a single mother,
Mhm.
and I was telling her what I do for work, and then she was like, okay, so well, my situation is undercover, and I said, oh, how so? I asked her, well, she said, well, I have life insurance, and my baby is the beneficiary of the life insurance. So if something happens to me, the insurance company will give her, the money.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. So then I said, well, in Canada, well, I asked her how old is the child. She said 5 years old. I was like, oh, okay. Well, if something happens to you, God forbid, but if something happens to you, the funds will not be given to your child because she's too young to handle, however, the amount you purchase in life insurance. Let's say it's $1 million that she purchased. So I'm like, the insurance company will not give $1 million to a 5-year-old. So she's like, oh, okay, well then what happens? So I said, well, we are in Ontario. In Ontario, what happens is that the insurance company will give the money to the children's lawyer of Ontario. So they will put that money into a trust account until the child turns age of 18, which is the age of majority. In Ontario, is 18.
Mhm.
So once she turns 18, they don't care if she's able to manage money, or they don't care her situation. They will just give her the money outright, and then she's able to go do whatever she wants with the money. So I'm like, well, she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, let's take a little bit further. Let's say you pass away, right? And the money now goes again. Your child is still 5 years old,
Mhm.
but the money goes to the children's lawyer of Ontario. But let's go a little bit further. What if your child passes away at, let's say, age 6? What happens? So she's like, well, I don't know. So I'm like, okay, well, in Ontario, if a person died without a will,
Mhm.
usually the funds goes to his spouse, children, and parents.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, let's review your child. So your child is 6 years old. So let's say she passes away, God forbid again. Is she married? She's like, well, no, she's too young. She wouldn't be married at 6 years old. So there's no spouse. So then children, I'm like, well, 6 year, your 6 year old daughter wouldn't have kids at 6, right? She's too young. She's like, yeah. So then I'm like, well, who's left? And it's like, oh, okay, the parents. And then she's like, well, I'll be dead. So what happens? So then I'm like, well, it takes two, right, to make a child, like you and the well, I guess in this case, the baby father.
Mhm.
So you would be dead, but I guess he is still alive. So the funds will go to him. So she wasn't very pleased with that answer. But that is what will technically happen if she passes away. The insurance proceeds goes to the daughter, and if the daughter passes away, unfortunately, the funds will go to the baby's father. And, technically they're no longer together, but that's unfortunate. So if you set up an insurance trust, you can avoid, this particular mistake from happening.
That's a very unlikely scenario, but it's important to know
Yeah.
regardless.
Yes.
Okay, just a quick question. Now, for that trust, if it's going from my insurance to a trust, it's now in my estate. Does it bypass probate still, or
No,
what?
so it would have to go through probate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it would have to go through probate.
Hmm.
But again, is there's nothing wrong with probate, right? Probate in Ontario is just a small tax that you pay is 1.5%,
Hmm.
but your will becomes public. But nobody's going to go to the well. Anybody can, but usually people don't.
Yeah. Also unlikely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Okay.
yes, but probate is not a bad thing,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes it's better to go through probate than not go through probate at all,
Yeah.
right? Probate, authenticates your will, make sure that is the last and final will of the individual. So sometimes probate is actually a good thing.
Hmm.
But again, it depends on your estate plan. So you have to make sure you have a good estate plan. If you want to avoid probate, there are tricks and maneuvers
Hmm.
to do it. Otherwise, you would have to go through probate. Yes, but to answer your question, yes, it will have to go through probate
Hmm.
if the testamentary trust is created inside the will. Yes. So this is, to me, this is the easiest trust to create for somebody who doesn't have, a large property or a large sum of assets to put into a trust, the
Yeah.
insurance trust. Yes.
And a lot of people don't think about that second part, about their children being underage or
Yes.
being
Exactly.
of age but not responsible or anything like that. So that's
Yeah.
also really good to think about.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, MK. Thank you for being on. Please let everyone know where they can find you. So if you have more specific questions, if you want to get in touch with MK, how can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram. My Instagram feed is at the neighborhood trustee. So that's Instagram, and soon I will be adding this on Trends as
Mhm.
well.
Oh
That's the new platform.
my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah. I just signed up yesterday. I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this new thing
Yeah.
again? But alas.
And for emails, you can send me an email. My email address is thehoodtrustee@gmail.com. So thehoodtrustee@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Everybody, please reach out. Ask him all of your trust, estate, everything questions. A very knowledgeable person. So I thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And if I can help you, please reach out to me. I do consultations and funeral pre planning. So please call out. I will help you as well on my side. We are about end of life, legacy planning, and ensuring that we are transferring our assets to the next generation with ease. All right, everyone. Take care and have a good night.
Thank you.